Cyber Threat Brief for June 6, 2026. SolarWinds ServU and Cisco SDWAN vulnerabilities are being exploited in the wild with no patch available for the Cisco flaw. CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, added ServU CVE 2026-28318 to the KEV Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog with a June 19 deadline for federal agencies. Chinese APT, Advanced Persistent Threat, deployed new custom backdoors including Plenet and Agent PSD to maintain persistent access after initial detection and remediation. The NPM supply chain faces coordinated attacks from ironworm malware and the miasma worm, which compromised 73 Microsoft GitHub repositories. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Security Brief June 6, 2026. Next section, Critical Alerts. SolarWinds ServU CVE 2026-28318 Denial of Service Vulnerability. CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, KEV Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog. CISA warned that hackers are actively exploiting a high-severity denial of service flaw in SolarWinds ServU file transfer software to crash servers. The vulnerability, CVE 2026-28318 CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, 7.5, EPSS, the Exploit Prediction Scoring System, 0.1, stems from uncontrolled resource consumption when specially crafted post requests use content encoding. Deflate. Remote attackers can exploit the flaw without authentication or user interaction. SolarWinds released version 15.5.4 hotfix 1 on Thursday to address the issue. Over 12,000 ServU servers are exposed online, according to Shodan, with Shadowserver tracking just over 3,100. CIS added the vulnerability to the Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog and ordered federal agencies to patch by June 19. ServU has been targeted by multiple threat groups in recent years, including the Clop ransomware gang exploiting EPSS 0.943, CISA KEV, and Chinese hackers using EPSS 0.944, CISA KEV, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action. Upgrade to ServU 15.5.4 hotfix 1 immediately. If patching is not possible, limit access to known addresses and block any post request containing content encoding header. Federal agencies must remediate by June 19 per BOD 22.1. Sources: Bleeping Computer, The Hacker News, CISA. Cisco Catalyst SDWAN Manager CVE 2026-20245 actively exploited. No patch available. Cisco confirmed active exploitation of CVE 2026-20245. CVSS 7.8. EPSS 0.1. Command injection vulnerability in Catalyst SDWAN Manager CLI that allows authenticated local attackers with netadmin privileges to execute arbitrary commands as root. The flaw affects on-premises deployments, SD-WAN Cloud Pro, Cisco Managed Cloud, and FedRAMP government installations. Exploitation requires valid credentials or chaining with CVSS 10.0, EPSS 0.831, CISA KEV, or EPSS 0.548, CISA KEV, both authentication bypass vulnerabilities exploited as 0 days. Cisco observed limited cases where attackers used to push configuration changes to edge devices. Google Mandiant researchers discovered and reported the vulnerability. No patches or mitigations are currently available. This is the 7th SDWAN vulnerability exploited in the wild this year, following EPSS 0.13, CISA KEV, EPSS 0.1, CISA KEV, EPSS 0.19, CISA KEV, and EPSS 0.4, CISA KEV, and 9 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action. No patch available. Ensure SDWAN software is updated with fixes for CVE 2026-20182, released May 14, 2026. Internet-exposed systems face heightened risk. Check /var/log/scripts. Log for indicators of compromise. Suspicious entries for vconft script upload tenant list. sh vconft script upload vsmart serial numbers. sh or vconft script upload chassis number file. sh executed from /home/admin/paths. Restrict network access to management interfaces. Sources: The Hacker News, The Register. Palo Alto PANOS CVE 2026-0257 Global Protect Authentication Bypass Unit 42 observed active exploitation of CVE 2026-0257. EPSS 0.478. CISA KEV due June 1. an authentication bypass in PANOS Global Protect portal and gateway components. The vulnerability allows unauthenticated attackers to circumvent security controls and establish VPN connections. CIS added the flaw to the KEV catalog on May 29. Exploitation attempts probe devices using suspicious host ID, BB, CC, DD, E, FF 0 to 11 22 to 33, 44 to 55, and device names Windows Laptop 001, Desktop GP 01, GP Client. Small portion of probe devices established successful gateway-connected sessions. Post-proof of concept exploitation uses hard-coded client configuration values including endpoint OS version, Microsoft Windows 10 Pro 64-bit, and empty source user info. Domain field. No post-access lateral movement has been identified. Action. Review Palo Alto Network Security Advisory for CVE 2026-0257 and apply available workarounds or upgrade to fixed versions. Hunt for successful Global Protect Gateway connected events from PrePo IPs 23.128.228.6. Search logs for suspicious host ID and device names listed above. Cortex Xpanse can identify publicly exposed PANOS gateways and Global Protect portals, and 8 additional IP addresses in the show notes. Source, Unit 42. Next section, Ransomware and Extortion. UNC 3753, Luna Moth, Chatty Spider, phishing campaign targets U.S. law firms Google Mandiant, identified a financially motivated data theft extortion campaign by UNC 3753, targeting dozens of organizations across professional, legal, and financial services in the United States from January through May 2026. The threat group uses voice phishing and social engineering to achieve remote access, posing as IT support and convincing targets to host screen sharing sessions and download remote monitoring and management utilities. Attackers initiate campaigns with benign invoice-themed emails from consumer accounts containing no malicious links or attachments, establishing a pretext for follow-up phishing calls. Once inside, threat actors search for and exfiltrate proprietary legal agreements, personally identifiable information, and financial records for subsequent extortion. The entire attack sequence from initial contact to data theft and extortion often occurs within a single business day, with recent incidents showing data searches, staging, and theft initiated in under 1 hour. In physical incidents, possibly linked to UNC 3753, individuals posing as IT technicians entered corporate offices to directly exfiltrate data from endpoints using USB storage media. Action, train employees to verify IT support requests through independent communication channels, not callback numbers provided in unsolicited emails or calls. Implement screen sharing approval workflows requiring manager authorization. Monitor for suspicious RMM, remote monitoring and management, tool installations, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Quick Assist, terminal services. Review access logs for rapid data access patterns, especially targeting legal agreements and financial records. Consider physical access controls requiring ID verification for IT personnel. Source, Google Threat Intelligence. Next section, Business and Infrastructure Threats. Over 900 U.S. automatic tank gauge systems exposed to attacks. CISA, FBI, NSA, and Department of Energy issued a joint advisory warning that over 900 automatic tank gauge AC systems used to monitor fuel and chemical storage tanks across U.S. critical infrastructure are exposed online and vulnerable to ongoing attacks. Threat actors exploit hard-coded credentials, authentication bypasses, SQL injection, OS command execution flaws, and privilege escalation weaknesses to alter system settings through command execution. Following successful compromises, attackers disable system alerts, increasing the risk of leaks or equipment failures and potentially causing permanent damage to tank systems. Shadows of a reported 1,061 ATG systems exposed globally on port 10,000 and 1/TCP as of June 5, with 909 in the United States. CNN reported in May that Iranian hackers breached ATG systems at multiple U.S. gas stations, manipulating display readings without altering actual fuel levels. These incidents, while not causing physical damage, raise concerns about hindering automated fuel leak detection and safety-related functions. In April, Iranian state-backed hackers were linked to attacks on Rockwell Automation's /Allen Bradley PLC devices since March 2026, with Sensis reporting 74.6%, 3,891 hosts, of exposed industrial control systems globally located in the United States. Action: restrict remote access to ATG systems from the Internet immediately. Implement controlled access through firewalls, VPN, or access control lists, Replace default passwords with strong credentials. Apply security updates. Monitor systems for unauthorized changes. Implement multi-factor authentication where possible. This applies to gas stations, industrial facilities, and any organization using ATG systems for fuel or chemical monitoring. Source: Bleeping Computer. Ironworm and miasma worm hit NPM supply chain. Multiple software supply chain attacks targeted the NPM ecosystem, distributing a Rust-based information stealer, Ironworm, and a self-spreading worm, miasma. Ironworm scrapes secrets from developer machines, hides behind an eBPF kernel rootkit, and communicates over Tor. The malware targets 86 environment variables and files containing credentials for OpenAI Codex, Anthropic Claude, Google Gemini, Cursor, Oz, Docker, Kubernetes, NPM, Vault configurations, and Exodus cryptocurrency wallets. The attack originated from compromised NPM account, Asteroidao, publishing Trojanized package versions containing a Rust ELF binary executed via pre-install hooks. Ironworm uses stolen credentials as a propagation mechanism, publishing itself to NPM and committing malicious code to GitHub repositories under the author name, Claude. Claude at users.noreply.github.com, mimicking Anthropic's AI chatbot. In CI environments, the malware abuses NPM's trusted publishing flow to obtain short-lived tokens for pushing poison packages. The eBPF payload functions as a kernel-level rootkit to hide processes, though it fails on systems with kernel lockdown enabled. Separately, miasma worm compromised 57 NPM packages across 286 malicious versions and 73 Microsoft GitHub repositories across Azure, Azure Samples, Microsoft, and Microsoft Docs organizations. GitHub disabled access to affected repositories. The miasma attack included recompromise of the durable task PyPI package previously infected by Team PCP last month, suggesting credential persistence. The worm skipped NPM registry entirely for some attacks, pushing malicious code directly to repositories including ikefloresu/mantindataable and related projects, with payloads detonating when developers clone affected repos and open them in AI coding agents, Claude Code, Gemini CLI, Cursor. VS Code. Action. Audit NPM dependencies for packages from Asteroidao and check GitHub commit history for unauthorized commits by Claude at users.noreply.github.com. Review GitHub Actions workflows for suspicious artifact uploads. Scan for durable task, mantindataable, mantin context menu, next server actions parallel, and related packages. Enable kernel lockdown where possible to prevent eBPF rootkit process hiding. Review NPM trusted publishing token usage. AI coding agent users should scan cloned repositories before opening in development environments. Sources: The Hacker News. The Hacker News. Smart TV apps turn devices into web scraping proxies for AI researchers, reverse-engineered the iOS SDK, embedded by Bright Data in consumer apps, documenting how it turns devices, including always-on smart TVs, into exit nodes, relaying web scraping traffic for AI industry customers. Bright Data operates what it claims is the largest residential proxy network in the world, advertised at over 400 million residential IPs, with 150 million plus IPs from SDK-embedded apps. The scraping uses the user's home IP address and bandwidth, not the customer's. Connected TVs are ideal targets, usually plugged in, on fast connections, effectively unmetered and unwatched. The peer channel carrying scraping jobs has no authentication on iOS, and its traffic bypasses configured VPNs. The SDK can relay in the background during screen use or calls, as long as battery is not low. Opt-in screens do not match actual SDK behavior. One Roku app, Petflix, stated it would use the device occasionally, but SDK settings allow up to 200 gigabytes monthly traffic. In some countries, including Uzbekistan and Oman, limits are set far higher with devices cleared to work almost until battery depletion. The SDK can tie together multiple devices, phone, computers, running the same company's apps, treating them as one user. Bright Data's public partner list includes smart TV app makers, Playworks Digital, Cloud TV, and Longvision. The business model is not new, but AI demand has driven scale. Anti-bot defenses from Cloudflare and Data Dome block data center IPs, forcing AI scrapers to route through residential connections. Action: inventory smart TV apps and review privacy policies for data sharing or bandwidth usage clauses. Monitor home network traffic for unexpected volume from EOT devices. Consider network segmentation to isolate smart TVs from sensitive systems. Check for apps from Playworks Digital, Cloud TV, and Longvision. Review bandwidth usage on always-on devices. Source: The Hacker News. Microsoft Claude Code GitHub Action exposes CI/CD secrets Microsoft Threat Intelligence, discovered that Anthropic's Claude Code GitHub action could expose CI/CD workflow secrets when AI agents process untrusted GitHub content, including issue bodies, pull request descriptions, and comments. A Claude Code action supported environment scrubbing for subprocess execution paths like Bash. The read tool was not subject to the same sandboxing model and was authorized to access /proc/self/environ, reading the workflow's Anthropic API KEY and potentially other credentials available to the runner. Anthropic mitigated the issue in Claude Code version 2.1.128 by blocking access to sensitive /proc files. Microsoft observed prompt injection attempts in public repositories using AI-assisted GitHub workflows across multiple vendors, where attacker-controlled issue or PR content is processed by AI agents and can influence tool use. One example showed in cross-site scripting injection via issue triage workflow, where a payload disguised as HTML comment instructed an AI bot with operational tools. Search local Git repo, read local Git repo file content, create pull request from changes, to append malicious HTML and immediately create a pull request, effectively steering the AI through a supply chain compromise step-by-step. Action: upgrade Claude Code action to version 2.1.128 or later. Treat AI workflows processing untrusted GitHub content as high risk when they also have access to secrets, file read tools, or external communication channels. Review GitHub Actions workflows for AI agents with broad tool permissions. Implement approval requirements for pull requests created by automation. Monitor for HTML comments in issues and PRs that contain instructions rather than conversational text. Source: Microsoft Security Blog. Next section: Windows/Active Directory Security. Chinese APT, Advanced Persistent Threat, UNC 5221, deploys new malware, Planet, Agent PSD, for persistent access. Volksity researchers responding to an incident found Chinese espionage group UNC 5221, also tracked as VertiBamboo, accessing Microsoft 365 environments using the Brickstorm backdoor and previously undocumented malware named Planet and Agent PSD. The threat actor had gained access to the victim network at least 18 months before detection and also compromised the victim organization's managed services provider. UNC 5221 has been involved in attacks exploiting zero-day vulnerabilities in edge devices since at least 2023 and used Brickstorm undetected for over a year, until March 2025. Initial access involved compromising an Ignite storage sync system, accessed periodically through the victim's web SSL VPN. From this foothold, using Brickstorm proxying features and stolen credentials, the threat actor accessed Microsoft 365 to blend in with legitimate network traffic and evade conditional access policies. After remediation, the attacker returned using stolen credentials to enable and configure SSL VPN access on the victim's firewall, then deployed custom malware to a Synology NAS device. Investigation at the MSP, managed service provider, found a BSD variant of Brickstorm on a pfSense firewall, compromised at least 18 months earlier. Planet, also tracked as Grimbolt, is a cross-platform NET-based backdoor offering interactive shell access, remote command execution, file manipulation, and command and control server switching, using WebSocket protocol for communications. Agent PSD is a simple Python-based reverse shell utility configured to connect to a different domain than Brickstorm, serving as a fallback persistence mechanism. Action: hunt for Brickstorm, Planet, and Agent PSD indicators across network edge devices, storage appliances, and MSP infrastructure. Review SSL VPN access logs for unexpected configuration changes and new user additions. Check Ignite storage sync, pfSense firewalls, and Synology NAS devices for backdoor artifacts. Monitor for WebSocket-based C2 communications. Implement conditional access policies and validate they cannot be bypassed via compromised edge devices. Review MSP access and credentials, especially for long-term persistent access. Assume 18+ month dwell time and conduct full incident response if indicators are found. Source: Bleeping Computer. OP512 threat cluster targets Microsoft IIS servers with custom web shell framework. ReliaQuest discovered OP512, a previously unreported Chinese-aligned threat cluster targeting Microsoft IIS servers with a bespoke web shell framework. The espionage-focused activity was observed against a legacy IIS server running Windows Server 2016 with end-of-life NET Framework 4.0. The custom framework consists of 3 web shells granting remote access while evading signature-based detection and complicating forensic timelines using timestamping. The malware scans every file and subfolder around web shell placement, calculates the median last modified timestamp, and overwrites creation and modification times to match that value, creating the impression of long-term presence. Each deployment is uniquely generated with cryptographic access controls restricted to the attacker. Compromised servers automatically report back for centralized management at scale. Prior activity on the same host occurred 75 days before the main incident, involving DNS queries to attacker-controlled domain asks, lhlsjcb.com. The main attack used the web server's worker process, W3WP, exe, to drop web shells to the application's upload directory, triggering self-reporting via DNS query or HTTP fallback to transmit the web shell's location. The framework provides file management, authenticated command execution through 2 independent access paths, and automated reporting. OP512 attempted privilege escalation to system level using the Potato suite, followed by running whoami/priv to confirm system rights. This is the 4th Chinese-aligned threat group, after CLSDA 0048, Dragon Rank, and Ghost Redirector, targeting IIS servers in the past 12 months. Action: audit legacy IIS servers, especially Windows Server 2016 with end-of-life. NET Framework 4.0. Review file timestamps in application upload directories for suspicious median matching patterns. Monitor DNS queries to unknown domains from W3WP. exe processes. Check for web shells with cryptographic access controls and self-reporting mechanisms. Review worker process file creation events. Hunt for Potato suite artifacts and privilege escalation attempts. Upgrade unsupported IIS software and NET framework versions. Internet-facing IIS servers running legacy, unsupported software remain a preferred entry point for Chinese threat actors. Source: The Hacker News. Next section, General Security News. Polyfill service reactivation causes login prompts on major websites. Japanese companies Toshiba and Muji warned visitors that suspicious sign-in screens popping up on their websites could collect credentials. Both companies advised users who entered login data to change passwords. The login pop-ups were generated by the external service hosted at polyfill.io and 3 additional domains. See show notes for the full list. Action: audit website codebases for polyfill.io references and remove them immediately. Migrate to official Polyfill service at Polyfill. Top or modern browser support strategies. Review content security policy to prevent loading from untrusted CDNs. Users who entered credentials on unexpected login prompts should change passwords. Monitor for similar CDN takeover scenarios where deprecated services reactivate. Source: Bleeping Computer. 2026 Verizon DBER highlights browser-based attacks in Shadow AI. The 2026 Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, DBER, identified browser-based attacks in Shadow AI as major enterprise risks. Shadow AI was the 3rd most common non-malicious insider action in DLP datasets, representing a 4-fold increase from the previous year. 67% of users access AI services on corporate devices through personal, non-corporate accounts, and 45% of employees are regular AI users. Over half of AI prompt inputs are sent to personal accounts, with 23% of sensitive prompt uploads involving data transiting through personal or unverified accounts outside corporate DLP policy or logging. 39% of breaches involved credential abuse. Keep Aware attack data shows browser-based credential theft as the #1 browser-based attack at 41% of observed threat activity. 63% of Microsoft-themed phishing sites were not flagged by any virus total vendor at time of employee exposure. 100% of credential theft attempts observed passed through existing non-browser security controls, network proxies, DNS filters, endpoint agents, unblocked. The average enterprise had more than 15% of users with unauthorized AI extensions installed. 13% of unique browser extensions across customer base were classified as high or critical risk. 93% of poor risk extensions were not detected by traditional controls. Action: implement browser-based security controls that can inspect rendered pages, not just network traffic. Deploy DLP policies covering AI services and monitor for prompt data containing sensitive information. Audit browser extensions and establish approval processes for high-risk categories. Block personal AI service accounts on corporate devices or implement proxied/logged access. Traditional network and endpoint tools miss browser layer attacks, requiring dedicated browser security solutions. Source: Bleeping Computer. Vulnerability disclosure dispute between Microsoft and Nightmare Eclipse researcher. Microsoft threatened criminal legal action against security researcher Nightmare Eclipse, who publicly disclosed 6 zero-day vulnerabilities: Red Sun, Undefend, Blue Hammer, Yellow Key, Green Plasma, Mini Plasma. With proof-of-concept exploits, Microsoft claimed it received no details prior to release and that defects were not responsibly disclosed, putting customers at unnecessary risk. Attackers exploited 3 of the 6 vulnerabilities before Microsoft patched them. The researcher claimed Microsoft refused to communicate, did not pay or credit them for discovering and reporting vulnerabilities, deleted their Microsoft Security Response Center account, and flagged their GitHub account for removal. The researcher threatened Microsoft with a release in mid-July that will make sure your bones are shattered that day. The dispute revived friction between vendors and researchers who find and report software flaws. Katie Mousauris, former Microsoft employee who created the company's first bounty program, said Microsoft got emotional and should not have publicly called out a researcher while involving law enforcement. The controversy highlights ongoing challenges in coordinated vulnerability disclosure processes. Action: organizations should maintain clear vulnerability disclosure policies and communication channels with security researchers. Establish internal processes for acknowledging researcher reports, providing timelines for fixes, and handling credit/bounty payments. Vendors must build trust with the security community to receive early notification of vulnerabilities rather than learning about them after exploitation. Researchers should follow coordinated disclosure timelines and escalate through proper channels before public release. Source: Cyberscoop. Next section, patch priority. SolarWinds Surview, upgrade to 15.5.4 hotfix 1, high-severity DOS actively exploited, CIS a KEV with June 19 deadline, over 12,000 exposed servers. Cisco SDWAN Manager, no patch available for CVE 2026-20245. May 14 fixes for CVE 2026-20182. High-severity command injection, actively exploited, affects all deployment types. Palo Alto PANOS Global Protect, apply workarounds or upgrade per vendor advisory for CVE 2026-0257. Critical authentication bypass, actively exploited, CIS a KEV. Anthropic Claude Code GitHub action, upgrade to version 2.1.128 or later. Secrets exposure via /proc file system access, mitigated. FFmpeg, pull fixed upstream build or distribution security update. 21 0 days found by AI agent, several dating back 15-20 plus years. Prioritize RTSB and AV1 over RTP ingestion systems. Next section, vulnerability disclosures. AI agent discovers 21 0 days in FFmpeg security startup. DIP first reported 21 previously unknown vulnerabilities in FFmpeg, the media library used in most video touching software, all discovered by an autonomous AI agent. A scan of FFmpeg's approximately 1.5 million lines of C cost around $1,000. Several bugs had been latent for 15 to 20 years, with one Stack Overflow in the service description table code dating to 2003, 23 years. Most are heap or Stack Overflows in parsers and demuxers, spanning components from the TS demuxer to the VP9 decoder. 9 vulnerabilities carry CVE, or Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures, identifiers, CVE 2026-39210 through CVE 2026-39218, with the rest fixed but not yet numbered. Proof of concept was published. FFmpeg is widely bundled in media pipelines, Python wheels, container images, and appliances, so embedded copies need patching in addition to system packages. Google's Big Sleep agent previously reported FFmpeg bugs tagged Big Sleep on the project's security page. Anthropic's Mythos model found a 16-year-old H264 flaw and others for about $10,000, with 3 shipping in FFmpeg 8.1. Another autonomous tool recently found an authenticated remote code execution in Redis present since version 7.2.0, unnoticed for over 2 years. Action: pull fixed upstream FFmpeg build or distribution security update immediately. Prioritize anything ingesting untrusted RTSB or AV1 over RTP. Do not stop at system packages. Audit embedded FFmpeg copies in media pipelines, Python wheels, container images, and appliances. Dependency bumps carrying CVE fixes should be treated as security work, not routine maintenance. Source: The Hacker News. Chrome 149 patches, record 429 vulnerabilities. Google shipped Chrome 149 with patches for 429 security bugs, the most ever in a single release. Over 100 are critical or high severity, mostly use after free and insufficient input validation. CVE 2026-10881, CVSS 9.6, EPSS 0.1 is the worst, an out-of-bounds read and write in the Angle graphics engine, allowing crafted pages to escape the sandbox and run code on the host. Google paid $97,000 for it. Of roughly 90 high-severity bugs, only 10 came from outside researchers. 19 of 22 critical bugs were Google's own internal finds. The volume increase correlates with Google's April bounty program overhaul, prompted by a flood of AI-generated submissions, now asking for concise reproducers over long write-ups AI generates. Google has not tied the 429 count to AI, but the bounty changes signal AI-driven volume. The record release comes the same week as the FFmpeg AI discovered 0 days and follows a February study showing an agent reproducing working PoCS for more than half of 100 real Linux kernel end-day bugs, beating fuzzing. Action: update to Chrome 149.0.7827.53 on Linux or 149.0.7827.53/54 on Windows and Mac OS, or confirm auto update has run. Critical sandbox escape and high-severity vulnerabilities patched. Response must match new AI-driven vulnerability discovery pace, shorter patch cycles, auto-update wherever possible, and treat dependency bumps carrying CVE fixes as security work. Source: The Hacker News. Sound Blaster Katana V2X speaker, remote code execution via Bluetooth researcher, Rasmus Moretz, discovered remote code execution vulnerabilities in Creative Technologies' Sound Blaster Katana V2X speaker, $283. The speaker connects to PCs, Macs, and Linux devices over USB or Bluetooth using Creative Transport Protocol, CTP. Bluetooth devices can connect without authentication or pairing and send CTP commands to the speaker, which is connected to a PC via USB. One CTP command labeled Upload New Firmware to Device allows replacing official firmware with custom code without code signing or verification. An attacker within Bluetooth range can reflash the speaker's firmware and potentially pivot to the connected PC. The vulnerability chain requires physical proximity but no physical access to the target device. Action: disconnect Sound Blaster Katana V2X speakers from USB when not in use or disable Bluetooth on the speaker. Monitor for firmware update notifications from Creative Technologies. Consider network segmentation for audio devices with both USB and wireless connectivity. The vulnerability demonstrates risk from peripheral devices with multiple connection methods and firmware update capabilities lacking code signing. Source: Ars Technica. Next section, Trends and Context. 4 distinct threat patterns converge this week. First, enterprise infrastructure faces sustained targeting with no patch availability. Cisco SD-WAN, or active exploitation before vendor response, SolarWinds Servview, Palo Alto Global Protect. Second, supply chain attacks show exponential propagation through automated credential theft and self-replication. Ironworm, Miasma Worm, Microsoft GitHub compromise. Third, AI-driven vulnerability discovery and exploitation is accelerating faster than human-dependent remediation processes. FFmpeg 21, 0 days for $1,000. Chrome 429 bugs in one release, Redis 2-year-old RCE. Fourth, Chinese APT groups demonstrate multi-year persistence through custom tooling and MSB compromise. UNC 5221 18-month dwell time, OP 512 time-stomping web shells, 4 IIS targeting clusters in 12 months. Organizations face machine speed threats requiring automated defenses and assume breach posture for legacy systems. That concludes today's cyber threat brief. From Carolina Clear Tech. Stay patched, stay vigilant.